What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Five Pod, episode number 120. First one in May. Cope, it's been a couple weeks. I just have a new background now. Of course, we have the Big Five Pod sign hanging up there. But I'm Kyle Morello, Jake Copestick next to me. Cope, how's it going? How we doing?
It's good. Some time for sleep, even though, I don't do that anyway. My Fitbit says I got 4 hours and 46 minutes last night, which is like,
what are you doing?
I'm a night owl, man. I'm watching Netflix. I'm getting ready for this. There's
no Mountain West basketball on for you to be watching. You got to get some sleep.
We got the NBA playoffs, man. I should have went to bed earlier because
believe me, I know.
Warriors a blowout, but we're good. Some rest. Great interview today. News is still rolling in to keep us busy. Beat the draft lottery last night that, of course, the Sixers had, they got the third pick, which is great. And then right after that, Jalen Brunson took over and the Knicks are a game away from – when was the last time they made the Eastern Conference Finals?
2000. Yeah.
Which means I was
trying to get this going, but that's the celebration.
So,
you weren't born yet.
I wasn't born. Yeah, I wasn't born yet.
No, which is wild. And I was one. I was one, which is crazy. So, listen, great time to be a Knicks fan right now. I do feel very bad for Jason Tatum. That you never want to see that. He was going nuclear in that game.
Oh,
him and Brunson trading blows was stuff of legend there. So fast recovery for him, hopefully. And hopefully the Knicks close it out by the time this episode releases, because this will be out on Thursday, May 15th. Game 5 is Wednesday. We're recording this on Tuesday, just due to some scheduling conflicts. So hopefully the Knicks have clinched and wrapped up to go to their first Eastern Conference Finals since 2000 would be pretty nice, Cope. But regardless,
what's the report on Tatum?
Achilles. He had surgery today. He had surgery on Tuesday. Yeah. Yeah. So for next season too, for the Celtics, it's and for him, obviously it sucks. It sucks. You don't want that. And if you do, you're not a real fan. So anyway, Cope, yes, you did allude to an interview that is coming a tiny bit later in this episode with Penn assistant coach Tristan Spurlock, which we are very much looking forward to sharing with you guys. He was awesome, great energy, had a ton of different experience in his playing career, coaching career. So we're excited to share all of that with you. But first, before we get into it, of course, since it's been a couple weeks, we're not going to go over everything. We're going to do a more in-depth portal and player movement episode next week. But because we had this interview and we have a couple things to catch up on, we are just going to do some quick hitters. So, Cope, if you have that basketball near you, get that basketball. We're on this break. Let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just some housekeeping here. Again, we'll do more portal stuff. We'll talk some coaching, some schedule news, just some housing, some housekeeping items to keep us busy. First thing I want to say, Kyle, Sixers third overall pick, Ace Bailey, come on down from New Brunswick to Philadelphia, man. Would love for him to join the team. We'll see what happens, but Ace Bailey, come on down. Love it. Get into some actual news that matters instead of me rambling about the Sixers, during the playoffs, getting the third overall pick. Kyle, let's talk some coaching news. So the staff at Villanova, we already know who the assistant coaches are. Ashley Howard retained. We talked about David Cox. We talked about Kevin Norris. We talked about Greg Manning Jr., all following Kevin Willard from Maryland. But the rest of his support staff is filled out, and it's all Maryland guys that he's bringing along with him. And sure, these might be director of player personnel guys and director of basketball ops, but hey, these could be your assistant and head coaches of tomorrow. We're going to keep the people informed and go over them all. First person we're going to talk about, Kyle, Ricky Harris coming over from Maryland. Following Kevin Willard, spent last season as a director of player personnel and assistant coach at Maryland. The year before that, director of player personnel, did not have the assistant coach tag. Spent the 2021 and 2022 seasons as director of operations at UMass, played at UMass, and had a professional career after he was done playing. Really started to get into coaching with Kevin Willard, after he had been in his alma mater and been at UMass. So he will be joining the staff with Kevin Willard. Next, Kyle, director of player personnel, is going to be Brenton Petty, coming over from Maryland. Spent the past season as a director of player development and assistant coach with the Terps. Was a video coordinator at Maryland since 2021. Couple different positions while he was at Maryland. Was with the Detroit Pistons working with the scouting department. Was a grad manager at Maryland. So he stayed along for the coaching change with Mark Turgeon leaving and Willard coming in. Guy that played in the Northeast, played at Fordham from 2015 to 2018. He'll be the director of player personnel for Villanova. Next, Kyle, let's talk some Dobo here. Charlie Butler following Kevin Willard as well from Maryland. How about this? This is a Kevin Willard, this is right-hand man right here. His entire basketball career post-high school. A team manager at Seton Hall, coordinator of basketball operations at Seton Hall, was a video coordinator at Seton Hall, spent 6 years there with Kevin Willard, and then went over to Maryland with Kevin Willard, took the job there. Director of basketball ops the last 2 seasons, was a coordinator of basketball ops in Kevin Willard's first year there. So a guy, not only just with Charlie Butler, but all these guys, with the exception of Ashley Howard, who I'm sure being in the Big East for as long as he has a relationship with Kevin Willard. We've basically taken Kyle, the Maryland coaching staff, and we've dropped them on the main line. So a group that's got a lot of familiarity amongst themselves, and it's the coaching staff at Villanova is now finalized. So the roster is getting to that point. The coaching staff is done. Ton of movement, ton of new faces. The dust is just about settled on the main line. Next, Kyle, pretty cool here. David Duda Jr. named the director of basketball ops at Penn. This is an important position because as we talked to Tristan about, the Ivy League only gets 5 full-time coaching spots. So a guy like this gets highlighted even more that there's not 5 assistant coaches and a director of basketball ops on the bench. But he spent the last 2 years as a grad assistant at Penn State under Mike Rhodes. He played D2 ball at East Stroudsburg, 1,000-point scorer, Kyle. A stone's throw away from me at Methacton High School. Grew up in a basketball family. His father, Dave Sr., is the AD at Delaware Valley. Coached at St. Joe's under Phil Martelli for a long time. And what's crazy is, Kyle, it's a small world and it only gets smaller as we get older. Dave Duda Jr. went to school at Methacton with my stepbrother, and Dave Duda Sr. is very, very good friends with my stepfather. They both went to Bishop Kenrick High School right outside Norristown. Kyle, Dave Duda Sr., how'd he get to coach at St. Joe's under Phil Martelli? Well, he coached under played under Phil Martelli when he was at Bishop Kenrick. So a basketball family through and through. Pretty cool to see Dave Duda Sr., his son, Dave Duda Jr., getting his first full-time. He was a GA, but his first, full-time basketball job at the college level. So Dave Duda Jr., director of basketball ops at Penn. Last, Kyle, big one that just came out a couple hours ago, just came out the day that we're recording this. The vacant associate head coach spot at St. Joseph's that was vacated by Justin Scott as he left for Oklahoma. Kyle, it's Steve Donahue, who was let go at Penn after being the coach there since 2016. He now fills in as the associate head coach under Billy Lang and completes that coaching staff. Big fan of this hire personally, because you get a guy who's, it's not the end-all be-all if you're not a Philly guy, but I think it sure helps that you are. Player development guy, X&O guy, veteran head coach at multiple different places, coached in the city for a long time. I think it's a really, really good hire, Kyle, as a guy who can be a tactician in the ear of Billy Lang. Not only a guy that can help you recruit this area and has a lot of connections here, but how about a really good X&O guy to be a part of Billy Lang's operation here. So really big fan of this hire. A guy Billy Lang, of course, has a lot of familiarity with in the area. So big fan of this. This is a really crucial hire, being that this is the right-hand man to Billy Lang here. This is a really big coaching spot here for the Hawks. So their roster's finalized as of yesterday. They put out a press release. Kyle, seems like their coaching staff is too. Huge fan of the Steve Donahue hire. And guess what, Steve Donahue, you don't got to put your house up for sale, move across the country or anything like that. You can stay right at home, only go a couple miles from the Palestra where you used to be. So on all fronts, Kyle, I think a very, very good hire. Checks a ton of boxes, experience, X and O's, recruiting, area, fit. Really, really good hire, I think, for the Hawks to get Steve Donahue. Yeah. Kyle, a couple scheduling tidbits here. So it's already been announced Villanova is going to play Sacred Heart on Tuesday, November 11th. That's already been announced. That's going to be a part of an MTE that Villanova is going to host in an effort to quickly knock out some non-conference games here. That MTE that Villanova is going to host, where they're going to play all 3 of these teams at home. We already said Sacred Heart. How about Queens College, the Royals? And then also Duquesne from the A-10 coming across the state. So a couple more games that we now know of on the Villanova schedule. Duquesne and Queens will play at Nova early to mid-November. We don't have dates on that yet, but we do for Sacred Heart playing at the Finn on Tuesday, November 11th, which I've speculated could be the home opener for Kevin Willard. Next, Kyle, we've already reported this on Villanova. Of course, they're going to play BYU as a part of an opening night doubleheader in Las Vegas on Monday, November 3rd. How about this, Kyle? The doubleheader of the night, the headliner of the college basketball opening day, Arizona and Florida going to be the other matchup. The defending champ Gators against what should be another really good Arizona team. If you don't have plans yet, which you probably don't for the first day of the college basketball season, I think I've got them for you. Great doubleheader. Put the recline yourself on the couch and you're good. Maybe you fall asleep there if the game doesn't tip off till 9-10 o'clock. Not sure what the order will be. No tip times yet, but it's a dynamite doubleheader, Kyle. A lot of storylines. Florida, the national champs. Arizona be good once again. BYU with expectations like crazy. AJ DeBonsa. They have Rob Wright, who they paid a lot of money. Some key returners. Should be a top 15 team preseason. And of course, Kevin Willard's first game at Villanova. So a lot of storylines, a lot of eyeballs. You really have the premier event of the college night, and Villanova being a part of a big-time doubleheader here. Next, Kyle, let's talk another MTE. The Cathedral of College Basketball Classic is going to return, and it's going to feature LaSalle, as well as Hofstra and Merrimack. Again, good way for these teams to knock out some non-conference, and with the scheduling troubles that the mid and low majors have, it's an easy way to correct that and make things easier for yourself. As always, played around Thanksgiving, going to be played at the Palestra from Friday, November 28th to Sunday, November 30th. Round robin, Penn, LaSalle, Merrimack, Hofstra, they'll each get a crack at each other. And because, Kyle, there's no guarantee we'll get LaSalle, Penn, and Big Five play, they're able to do this and they're able to play each other. So it's a bonus city matchup for both teams. LaSalle is in a pod with Temple and Nova. Penn is going to have St. Joe's and Drexel. So Darius Nichols right away. He's filling up his Big Five schedule. I love this that they've agreed to play each other again, and they could play each other in the Big Five championship. So love that they're doing this, and a bonus, overtime free Big Five basketball game. So excited for that. The Cathedral of College Basketball Classic, Kyle, returning once again. Kyle, wrapping it up here before we get into the meat and potatoes, before we get to Tristan. There's 4 Big Five transfers who have committed elsewhere. I'm going to knock out real quick, and then we'll get to the interview. And Kyle, how about a pair of guys headed down to Delaware? First, you have Villanova's Nana Njoku, who's from Delaware, Kyle, is from Newark. You notice how I said that? I didn't say Newark.
That's
I said
right.
Newark like I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
He's from there. He's going back home, Kyle, and he'll probably be able to play in walking distance from where he grew up because he's headed to play for Martin Inglesby and the Blue Hens. Dealt with some injuries at Villanova. Never really got off his tenure there never really got off the floor. There was just so much hindrance with the injuries and recurring stuff and sitting out. So hopefully he's healthy and moving down a level. He can have a big role here and play a lot more, albeit Kyle literally in his hometown. So Nana Njoku headed there. Kyle, who from the Big Five is following him? How about Jameel Brown from Temple? If we're being honest, this was a disappointing year for Brown. I really thought he would be a good player for Temple. His shooting ability, him transferring down from the Big Ten, I think would be awesome for him, and he would be a great player for Temple, but just never materialized. Then there was an ankle injury that kept him out for pretty much the whole season. This guy only played a handful of games before sitting out the rest of the year, but he's headed down to Delaware as well. AAC and Temple didn't work out for him, perhaps moving down another level again, going down to the CAA does. But a pair of Big Five guys headed to play for Martin Inglesby. I hope they keep the rivalry with Drexel alive and these guys can play in the city once again. But a pair of Big Five guys, Kyle, headed right down 95, headed to play for Delaware. Next, Kyle, 2 Nova guys to finish us out. Chris Parker headed to UCF, his third school in 3 years, redshirted at Alabama, came up to Villanova, got there late, had some good moments, and then kind of fell out of favor. But he's headed to UCF, is going to stay in the power conference level, is moving back down south again. He's actually from Tallahassee, so he's moving back to his home state here to play for Johnny Dawkins, but a big forward, showed some shooting ability, had a good game against DePaul when they smoked them at the Finn when I was there. But he kind of fell out of favor, Kyle, for this next guy, and that's Jordan Dumont, who's headed to VCU to play for Phil Martelli Jr. You can never get rid of these Big Five guys, right? We're going to see this guy come to play the Big Five schools. But he's headed down there. A really high upside team if you look at the roster in its entirety for VCU. They got Tyrell Ward from LSU. They've got Ahmad Noel from Philly, who is at UConn and didn't play that much. Like, the thought of what VCU could be, and they hit on all cylinders, and if Phil Martelli's as good as a young coach as we think he is, which I think he is, it's going to be another really, really good VCU team next year. And Jordan Dumont's only going to add to that. Like, we only saw him play late in the season, made 4 threes against Marquette and come on strong and really take some of Chris Parker's minutes. But he's another guy with injuries. You haven't seen him play a full season yet, but he's big. He's 6'8". There's shooting there. Like, he's got all the prerequisites, Kyle, I think, to be a really, really good A10 player. I think this is a great spot for him to play for Phil Martelli Jr. and the VCU Rams. With that, Kyle, enough of me. Let's get to the star of the show today, and assistant coach Tristan Spurlock.
Let's do it, Cope. And without further ado, like you said, Penn assistant coach Tristan Spurlock. All right, people, the moment you've been waiting for. Of course, we are now joined by Penn men's basketball assistant coach Tristan Spurlock on the Big Five Pod. Tristan, how you doing, man? I'm
doing good. I'm appreciative of you guys having me. Thank you. And I've had a lot of fun. Philly's been good to me these last couple of weeks. So I'm enjoying being here. I'm enjoying getting acclimated to Penn, and it's been fun so far. So I hope to keep it up.
Absolutely.
So, Tristan, let's get to know you a little bit. I listened to a couple different podcasts doing some film study on you before we got on, and if there's one thing about you, you're gonna let everybody know you're from the DMV. You're very proud to be from that area. So, you can read your bio, where you played high school, where you played college, but you being a DMV guy, you're Mr. Basketball in the state of Virginia. Walk us through your basketball upbringing in such a talent-rich area.
Man, I will say, I am proud to be from, where I think is the greatest hotbed in the world. My Philly guys, I got a lot of Philly guys. They would push back on that, and I do respect the basketball culture here. I know a lot of guys here who I played overseas with, and I definitely respect the talent that comes from here. But man, I feel like pound for pound, player for player, man, we just got a lot of guys that come from here, but come from the DMV, man. It's a large area when you count DC, Maryland, Virginia. But I was blessed, man. I was blessed. I played for a really good young AAU team, Prince William Pacers. We had Kendall Marshall was my point guard. He ended up going to UNC. I had like 4 or 5 guys that ended up going to Division I off a 9-year-old team. So, we were from a young age, we were competitive. We were good. A lot of that I contribute to my dad, man. He didn't play basketball growing up, but he just dropped me off everywhere, any and everywhere. There was pickup. There was outside. I hooped outside. I practiced outside. I hooped, I would go to men's leagues and hoop in there. And, my dad, he didn't play, but he put me around the game at a young age, and I played a lot of basketball. So, I went to one of the best high schools in the country, in Montrose Christian. And that was in itself something that, I'll never forget from, we had guys like Kevin Durant, Gravis Vasquez, Terrence Ross, Isaiah, Armwood, Philly. He went to Villanova, Terrell Vincent, Justin Anderson. Those are just guys in my time frame. You know what I mean? So, for me, it's just a blessing to be able to have the upbringing I did. And then I did, win Mr. Basketball in the state of Virginia. That was great. That was fun. That year we played against IMG and, Miller School and all them other guys. And, just being recognized as one of the best, if not the best player in the state. Now that I'm older, I take a lot of appreciation and stuff like that.
So talking professionally now, because you turned your really good high school career and then a nice college career into a really long career overseas. So just touch on your pro career, the stops you made, because you've really been the world traveler. You've been using that passport quite a bit in your playing days.
Yeah, I just had to get a new passport too. It's funny. I'm all stamped out. But yeah, I played at a lot of places, man. I enjoyed it. First, I did summer league with the Pistons. I did a little training camp with the Jazz. Then I got drafted 19th overall by the Cavs in the G League. So that was my first pro stop there. And it was the D League. It wasn't the G League yet. It was a D League. Wasn't making no money. And then after that, I played in Puerto Rico. I played in Hungary, where I went to the finals. That was my first real overseas experience. And you're young, you think, I went to the finals as, my first year overseas. I'm going to go every year. And I actually did go back into my last year, and we won the championship my last year, second to last year. So, I played everywhere. China was amazing. Played in the NBL over there. I played in Israel. That was a lot of fun. Argentina. That was great basketball, great food, great, culture. And I enjoyed it all. Israel was great. Lebanon, Mexico, I played there for quite some time. My last stop was Uruguay. And I liked it a lot. I enjoyed playing, and I think I'm lucky to have played. And, the game didn't leave me. I left the game. And I think sometimes that's the hard part where guys are kind of trying to fight for one more and fight for two more. For me, I was in a situation where I had my son. I missed him. I missed being home. I missed, the family life, and I just didn't want to do anymore.
So last, before I kick you over to Kyle here, just want to keep talking about the DMV. You mentioned you played with Kendall Marshall, who, I mean, me and Kyle's lifetime, like one of the best college passers around. Yeah. He was terrific. But when you think about guys that you played with, coaches, mentors, maybe people that you met through coaching, like what is your network? Who are some of your best friends from the DMV?
Man, it's crazy because sometimes you forget guys until you see him, and then you're like, that's my boy, and his name gets brought up. I got guys like I said, Kendall Marshall. He was my point guard when we were 9, and then he was my point guard when I played with Boo Williams. I played with Boo Williams as a senior. I played DC Blue Devils. You know what I mean? Jeff Peterson, he's the GM of the Charlotte Hornets now. He was one of my point guards for the DC Blue Devils. I played with, I played pickup at Georgetown all the time with all my, my Georgetown guys. If you let them tell it, I should have went to Georgetown. You know what I mean? So, Chris Wright's my guy, Austin Freeman, Ike, he's a coach over at American now. That's my guy, So it's just so many guys. I grew up right down the street from George Mason too. I would go there all the time with Ryan Pearson, play pickup with him, and Byron Allen, and just a plethora of guys from the area. Maryland, Gravis was my favorite player growing up. I got to practice against him, and then I got to watch him kill at Maryland. That was like, the greatest for me. I wore 21 in high school because of Gravis. He was 6'5", 6'6", played the point, the two. That's what I wanted to do. Adrian Bowie, one of my guys I played with at Montrose, he went to Maryland. So just in the area alone, man. And then my teammates, I had Stephen Pledger. He ended up going to Oklahoma. Andre Dawkins, he ended up going to Duke. Deshaun Painter went to Florida. Like my Jontel Evans went with me to UVA. So my AAU, my last year, we won Peach Jam. We was the last Boo Williams team to win Peach Jam. It wasn't EYBL back then, so don't date me. Don't make me feel old. But a lot of that stuff, again, as I get older, I cherish those moments and I appreciate them. And it doesn't do anything but help my network. You know what I mean? I feel like I can go anywhere back home in the DMV, and I can, travel down to Southern Virginia, and it's such rich and talent, and a lot of guys there that, I could do my thing and recruit and relate to a lot of these kids.
Yeah. And you've been all over the world. You've been all over the DMV. But let's take you back to why we're here for a second and talk about the city of Philadelphia and basketball here, specifically with Penn. So you obviously were at Iowa. Coach McCaffrey takes the job at Penn, his alma mater. You follow him here. Mm-hmm. What was that conversation like, and what ultimately led you to the decision to follow him to his alma mater in Penn?
I mean, it was a pretty simple conversation. It was, you coming? And I was like, yeah. There wasn't a lot of back and forth. That's my guy, man. I think people know people might not know how close we are family wise. Like, that's a guy, that's my mentor. He's somebody I listen to, somebody that saw in me a lot early on. It's funny, I'll tell the story. When I came back from overseas, I was setting up the pickup runs at Iowa. So I was doing the pro runs like Coach Tone does, down at the Palestra. Like I was setting up the pickup runs and I was playing. And, some things happened on the Iowa staff. One coach retired, one coach left, and the player development position was open. And I remember, talking to Coach. He came to watch the guys one night, and I was like, Coach, I'd like to interview for that. And he looked at me. He was like, you playing with these guys, like you dunking on my guys. Trust, like you want to stop at 30 and you want to get into coaching like right now? And I looked at him and told him, yeah. So I'd stop right now to be a part of your staff and to be able to, learn. And the reason I said that was because I've seen so many of my friends have to go through the D2 route, the D3 route, you know what I mean? Like JUCO and low D1. And then for me, and to be able to start right away at a Power 5 and Power 4 now at Iowa, man, I couldn't pass that up. And, 5 weeks into it, Coach sat me down in his office. He was like, hey, you could be one of the best ever at this. but you got to be more than just a player development guy. You know, my first year, all I did was work guys out. I didn't really know much of the offense, defensive schemes. I wasn't huge into the recruiting. And all I did was work guys out from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And guys got better. And it was a drastic improvement and leap. And coach was like, hey, you could be the best player development guy ever, but you got to step up your recruiting and you got to know your X's and O's. And I took that to heart and I took that serious. And, to me, I take pride in, I brought coach's highest recruit in school history at Iowa. You know what I mean? So, I was really appreciative of, him believing in me. And that summer, I did a whole year. He promoted me, then promoted me again. So I was, I think, I owe all my loyalty to him when it comes to this. And he tells me all the time, like, hey, you can be the best. You can be the best. Like, as far as you want to go, you can go. You relate to the guys. You jump out there. You play them one-on-one. You teach them. You bring them in, watch film. And he's allowed me to do those things. And that's what I love about Coach McCaffrey. He doesn't micromanage. I always joke with people. I was like, man, I worked with a coach for 4 years. I never heard him tell me no. He never walked in the gym and was like, hey, you need to be doing, or I don't think you should do that. It was always, all right, that's what you want to do. Like, okay. Like, I want to see some results. And, and that's the thing. He's very, a player's coach. Guys love playing for him. Guys run through a wall for him. They enjoy that process. So, for me, I just want to be an extension of that.
Yeah. And it seems like, throughout his career at Siena, Iowa, like it seems like that is, what everyone wants is someone who's a player coach like that. So it seems like you're kind of taking the tune of that and, going from player development coach now to an assistant coach. You've learned a lot of things, recruiting being one of them, as you just mentioned. It's obviously a much different world now probably than when you started. How have you learned to recruit in this day and age with NIL and transfer portal? And how different is that going to be and has been already from being an Iowa in the Big Ten to now Penn in the Ivy League?
And a lot of coaches I talk to say it's more transactional. It used to be very relationship based. You picked a lot of these schools, places based off how comfortable you felt with the coach. And I think, for me, I still try to stick to that. I try to stick to, when I'm recruiting a kid, getting to know a kid, making sure he fits. Can we sleep at 8 p.m. with this kid on the roster? That's one of the big questions. Are we good? Is he a good human being? How does he talk to his mom? How does he talk to his dad, his teammates, his coaches? Those things still matter to me. And I think, it's easier to recruit high school kids at this level because of the transfer portal, if I'm honest. Like now we can, a lot of these high school kids that were, whatever level is getting overlooked. And for us, not only do we come with an amazing basketball pedigree, come with an amazing degree. You come here, you're already setting yourself worldly apart from everyone else with a degree from Penn. So, it's been different, but you also know the type of kids you want to get. You get guys who want to come and play in the Ivy League. That's probably number one. You guys who want to come and play here. And then after that, we've been blessed, man. We've been lucky to have some good guys coming in and then, the guys that we have that we're looking at in that 2026 class. I think we're have a really good one.
Absolutely. And last year, Penn brought in 3 transfers. You've already brought in 2 this year. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest thing right now is that everyone but one who was in the transfer portal or eligible for the transfer portal decided to stay. So now you have this group of guys who a lot of them are staying. You're bringing them some new guys. How bought in is this group already, even in, mid-May? Man,
these guys want to work. They want to work. They text me all the time about getting in the gym. I've watched film with almost all of them. It's a great group to be around. They are hungry for what we're bringing, which is, a very simple mindset. Like we want guys who want to be in the gym all the time. Like I was just joking with you guys before we started, like I'm playing one-on-one, I'm playing pickup with them. I'm out there bumping them. I'm in the drills. My left knee is killing me. It might fall off today, but I think they like that. They like that. They enjoy it. And I keep myself in some type of shape where I can at least foul them. At least I can move around and I might not make a shot right now, but I can hack them. But this group of guys that we inherited, man, they want to be here. We adding a couple. We're adding some 2025s. We're adding some transfers. But this has been an amazing group of young men to coach. And, I've even gotten some text messages from some parents. That really touched me to be like, hey, my son is excited about basketball again. My son is, ready to do whatever it takes for you guys. And that to me means the world.
Tristan, I want to touch one more point here on you being a player development guy and your coaching load before we get into the rest of the team here. But you mentioned when you first started at Iowa, you weren't able to do that much recruiting. So I want to ask you a two-part question here. Like, how has that gradually built to more for you to do more recruiting? But then more importantly here, throw it back to the DMV. You're not far from there. You have a bunch of connects from there. How are you going to get all those kids to come up here?
You know what? It's funny. And I was telling the guys that today, like I love being an assistant coach. I love the role I'm in. I love, I was game planning. I won't say for what team, but I was watching film today on the team and, guys were like, man, we don't play till, November. I say, yeah, but I'm starting now. Like that part of me, I love this. I'm obsessed with it. I'm a dad. I love being a dad. I love working and I love coming home to the Rugrats. You know what I mean? So like that's my thing right now and I'm enjoying it. So from the player development part, that's like the core of what I am. You know what I mean? That's the essence of what I like to do. I love being in the gym. I love getting in there and really helping guys get better. And I like the aha moment. I call it the light bulb moment when, I've been telling you something over and over. And then when I see it click, it's like, boom, there we go. That's what I really love. But yeah, man, it's great. I got a lot of friends in a lot of these high schools and they call me. And as soon as I got the job, they say, we 2.5 hours away. We can come up whenever. So, I'm going to be in the DMV. I'd be foolish not to. I've already, planned. I'm going to DMV live. I'm going to be there watching those guys. And I've already got kids from that 2026 class in that Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland area that I'm targeting. And I think, with it being such a rich basketball, area, it makes sense. It makes sense for me. My AAU coach, when I played for DC Blue Devils, he's the associate head coach at Paul VI. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that where, he's my guy. It was hard to get him to, he was honest with me. He said, Tris, I can't get no kids all the way to Iowa. I loved him. He would tell me like, hey, I like that kid for you. Maybe. And then you getting a kid from DC or Maryland or Virginia to think about something like that far is kind of hard. But right up the street in Philly, man, it's not hard at all. We have a beautiful campus. We got a beautiful practice gym. Everyone knows the cathedral of college basketball is the Palestra. We have people excited about it again. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
So moving on to the bigs now, let's go back to the team. Mm-hmm. I saw the mic'd up video you were working the other day, but they have some big shoes to fill here. Because Nick Spinosa's graduating, was a very, very good Penn Quaker in his time playing at the Palestra. But the big advantage for you guys bringing all these guys back is you have time with these guys. You don't have to fill a roster. You guys can practice with essentially a full team right away. So now that you've been in the gym with these guys, what are you seeing from these guys? Are you seeing them get better? Like, what do you make of the big group here?
I definitely say I've seen them get better. I think you got to learn how to work. And it's a different level. We're not dropping our level. We come from a Big Ten, Power 5, but we're not dropping to go, okay, now we're at Penn, we're going to do things like this. No. This is the standard. This is how we've gotten guys better. This is how, Keegan Murray, who came in at Iowa as the 351 player, got to a 4th pick in the draft, and his brother was ranked 352 and got to the 21st pick in the draft. You know what I mean? Very similar situations where Iowa, we didn't get 5 stars. You know what I mean? We got guys who came in and had to work and got better every single year. So for us, this part of it is nothing, getting in the gym, getting guys better, pushing guys and seeing what they could be. But the thing is on them. Do they want to come in the gym? They do. My phone is on fire 24/7. Just, hey, what time you in? Hey, can I come in and watch this? Can you show me that? We talked about footwork and base, and I think a lot of potential in all the guys. I see a lot of improvement already, and I think summertime is up to them to put the extra work in. And I tell them that like everyone's doing the minimum. Like everybody's here working out once a day. But what else are you doing? Are you in the extra lifting? Are you taking care of your body? Are you watching basketball? Are you breaking down film? Like what extra are you doing to separate yourself in this process?
All right, Tristan. So we're talking about some guys coming back already, or at least a group that is coming back. 2 of those specifically is Ethan Roberts and AJ Levine. The latter who took his name out of the transfer portal to come back to Penn. The former who transferred in last year and had a great year in the Ivy League. This is already, even though we're in mid-May, I know it's early, very early, but it's already looking like one of the best backcourts in the Ivy League. How good can they be in Fran McCaffrey's style of play this year?
It's no secret. We're gonna push the ball. We're gonna play fast. We'll try to score 100 points. That's not It's not a secret. Coach has done that everywhere he's been, and we're going to keep doing it. And I think for me, what I was excited to see was Ethan toward the end of the spring and beginning of the summer get back to working out and shooting, and he looks great. I mean, he's got a different gear. He shoots it. He shoots it at a high level. He gets to the spots. I think now we're just trying to show him where he'll score in our offense and the freedom we give him and what he's allowed to do, which is, if you've seen Iowa play, which is almost anything offensively, coach's biggest thing is if you're going to shoot it with confidence, and I just want him to never lack confidence. So with confidence, you got to have preparation. You got to prepare the right way, right? You got to make a million shots in the summertime. And I think he'll do that. I'm super excited for him. I think he'll be one of the best players in the Ivy. Definitely one of the best, guards, wings, whatever you want to call them. But in our system, you got the rebound, you the point. And if you don't, you're running the wing or filling the lane. He can go post up. He can go pop to the corner wing. I could care less, but when he gets it, I want him to be aggressive. And I think AJ is going to be good too. We got to see him a lot this spring and summer, early summer. So I'm excited for him to be able to, continue, his progression. But I'm excited for a lot of these guys, man. I'm excited for Cam. I'm excited for, I'm drawing a blank right now, but I'm excited for Cam. Dylan, my guy, he'll kill me if I forgot him. So I'm excited for Dylan. I'm excited for all our guards. Alex, I think we'll be really good and pushing the ball, pushing the pace. Just got to teach them. Just got to teach them what to do. And then once we do that, they should be fine. But I'm excited about the guys we got coming in as well. Super excited about them. I think they'll set us apart too.
Yeah, and the style of play specifically, obviously, throughout you guys' time at Iowa and Fran's time at Iowa, regarded as a great offensive coach, played really fast, put up a lot of threes, like you said, want to score 100 points every game. And it's been very successful in his career. What makes it so successful, especially in college basketball?
I think guys it's the guys you get, right? Like we get guys who want to play for each other, who want to play unselfishly, who want to push the pace, who want to pass it, score it, shoot it. But those guys want to be in the gym a lot. In my first year, I found out how much they wanted to be in the gym all the time. They love being in the gym. They love playing at a high pace. And so it makes it easy for us to be able to coach that. And they're unselfish. You got to be unselfish. And with scoring, we also normally lead the nation in assist and turn ratio. So, that's big too. Last couple of years, we pass it, we share it, but we don't turn it over. And that means we get a lot more possessions than the other team.
Yeah. And hold on, Cope. I have one more follow up though, specifically for this style. Like, it's interesting because obviously it worked a lot in the Big Ten. Now you're taking it over to the Ivy League where, not that it's a completely different style of play. It's still high level basketball, but it's different. I'm not sure the Ivy League has seen something like this in a little bit. Like, how different do you think it will be? Maybe not for you guys playing against Ivy League competition and that pace, but how different will it be for Ivy League defenses to play against this pace and this style?
I think it'll be different. I mean, they've probably played against fast teams before. They've probably played against guys who can push it. But I think the difference with us is we're pushing the ball every single time. We're playing with that type of pace every single time, not just sometimes. We're going to tell our bigs, run to the middle of the rim every time. Like I said, we had Keegan. Keegan used to run to the middle of the rim because he had an easy mismatch. Doesn't mean he's the big. It's just what we're doing. We're pushing it. We're playing at a pace. And I think it'll be different. Hopefully that's one of our advantages. But I also know that we are going to have to condition ourselves to play like that. And we're going to have to really push ourselves to be able to do that for a long time.
Trish, I'm going to take a guess here. If you were watching film on a team you're going to play potentially an Ivy League play, you might have been looking at Cornell because they're going to play a similar style to you guys, and you guys might score 200 points when you guys play each other because they play at a similar pace and style that you guys are. I want to touch back on coaching just real quick here because another restriction in the Ivy League, so to speak, is you guys don't have as many full-time staffers as you do at a power school. So you guys having 5 full-time staff members here. Your development as a coach under Fran McCaffrey, how has that prepared you for this, where there's going to be more on your plate strictly because there's not as many full-timers here?
I think that's a great question, and it has. It's prepared me 100%, and that's why I'm walking into this with supreme confidence because, like I said, at the core of what I am and the core of what I love is player development. I love the gym. Now, the other stuff I'm getting better at as far as, whether it be responding to emails, like, right? So but for me, the thing I love the most is being in the gym. So we've made a really I don't want to use it, but we made a killing off guys coming in who weren't as highly touted or who weren't whatever they were and getting them better. We have we're known for that. Coach is known for that. You know, I was only there for a small period of time, but I helped, you know, with a lot of those guys. I helped take Philip Abracha from 3 points to 13 points and, you know, third team all Big Ten big man. You know what I mean? Should have been second team. So, you know what I mean? Like that part of it is like, that's what I want. I'm excited for that. I'm ready for that challenge and getting these guys better. We got a lot to work with, you know, bigs, wings, guards. We have a lot to work with. And, you know, our staff is amazing. Coach Moore, he played for Coach McCaffrey at Siena, you know, onions, big shots, you know what I mean? And he's one of the best guards Coach McCaffrey's ever coached. And then, you know, you got Ben Luber, you know what I mean? He was a former D1 coach. Again, he's already been in that gym with these guys plenty of times, you know what I mean? Building our guards up and our wings. And, you know, I'm excited about not just me, but our staff is hungry to get guys better as well.
I want to touch a little bit on Iowa here and your time there, and then we'll get into some big stuff and get you out of here. But when you were there, the Caitlin Clark mania is going on. You know, she's dating Connor McCaffrey. But when you're there, you guys were, I mean, the University of Iowa was the epicenter of college sports for a little bit. So to be able to be in the gym and witness that, and you have Travis Scott and Jake from State Farm going to the games this year, what was that like?
It was great. I mean, it's funny because everybody makes Caitlin to be whatever. She's an amazing person. I mean, just pure-hearted, loves the game. I love that she's fiery. I love that she talks shit. Excuse my language, but like that's like the essence of like what I like. That's one of the reasons why I love being here in Philly. That's why I jump into the pickups here, because I can, you know, talk a little bit and everybody's talking and I love it. Everybody's talking, not just me, you know, and you know, but being in the middle of that, where our football team was, you know, going to the Big Ten championship, we were winning the Big Ten, you know, tournament. Caitlin's hitting shots from, you know, half court. Like, it was amazing. And getting 15,000 people in the gym every single night, that was a lot of fun. And I will say it's memories that, like, I will, you know, never forget, cherish forever. You know, I got a picture with Travis Scott. He was shooting in the practice gym when I walked in. So, excuse me, like, State Farm, Mine Moore, me and Sue. I got a picture with Sue Bird. Like, she was shooting a commercial while I was working guys out, like stuff like that. I just, you know, never take for granted. You know, and that women's team over there was a special group, man. They were so nice and so kind, and I root for them.
I got one more question for you about a memorable game a couple of years ago before Kyle gets into some Big Five stuff here. But
is it the stare down?
Yes. Are you reading my notes? Yes.
No, you know what's funny? Coach doesn't have any social media, none, right? Zero. So I remember after the stare down, we win. We're all hyped up, and next day, I think we had practice the next day, but it's early. I'm in the office, and I'm kind of like watching ESPN, and they're talking about it, and he walks in. He peeks his head. He's watching. He's looking at it on ESPN. He like looks and he looks at me. He said, "Be honest with me. How big is this? How crazy is this right now? Like, I you know, Meech, I don't have anything. What is it like on, you know, the internet?" He still calls it the internet, not social media. He said the internet. I'm like, Coach, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is everywhere. People were sending me memes, videos. I said, Coach, it's everywhere. He was dying laughing, bust out laughing. And he walked back to the office and got ready for Rutgers. Like, it was just like, you know, and that's how he is. He's very detached from the internet. He doesn't hear all that. He loves the essence of like growing kids up and, you know, turning them into great young men and great fathers and great husbands and building the relationship. He likes that guys come back 10 years later and talk to him. But that moment was huge. And then when we almost got in a brawl at home versus Indiana, that was another moment where that was my first year too. And I was like, what in the world? You know, like, what is going on? And we beat them. And then a couple weeks later, we had to go to Indiana. So we're preparing for a dogfight. Like, hey, look, it was a brawl almost at our place. Let's control our emotions. It's going to be a tight game. And we beat them by 20. And Peyton Sanford did the kiss of death and got a tech with like 3 seconds left. And we got out of there. It was the quietest building I've ever been in. But it was, you know, stuff like that, like those moments. But that Michigan State one was an all-timer. That was at least top 2.
Gotta be. All right. Big Five questions now, Tristan. So obviously you are going to be, your home gym is going to be the epicenter of the Big Five and where it all started in the Palestra, the cathedral of college basketball, as you mentioned earlier. Had you ever been to the Palestra before you got the Penn job? And if not, what were your first impressions?
No, I hadn't. And then my first time was during the press conference. Flew in late. I had to speed to the Palestra to make coach's press conference. He wanted me there, and I wanted to be there. And when I walked in, I was like, wow, we win a lot of games in here. So that was my first initial take. I've been worked out in there, shot in there. It's a shooter's gym. I love it. I think, I think the excitement about the Palestra will come back. It will be back, and it starts with us. But we got to put a good product in there for people to want to come and get excited about.
Absolutely. Obviously, we are the Big Five pod. We talk all about Big Five basketball in the city of Philadelphia. What do you know about the Big Five? And has Fran McCaffrey told you any stories from, his time at Penn and obviously beyond?
You told me some story. I can't repeat them. I can't repeat them all.
It's okay.
I think the biggest thing I've seen about the Big Five is that, like, I love the fact that everybody plays pickup at the Palestra. You know what I mean? Like, I like that other schools, other people come in and that's where they hoop at. That's where they play at. And I think that I like that for our guys, especially. We've had guys from Temple. We've had guys from LaSalle. We've had guys from Drexel. We had guys from Villanova these past couple of weeks all coming in and play and pick up there, man. And I like that. I like that they do that on their own. And I think that's something that's unique. And I think, when we got guys coming in or guys who stay around for the summer, that's the ability. That's their way to, kind of measure themselves and see, okay, he going there. Oh, we got play them. Okay, cool. And you start that rivalry a little early, and I like that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And, Philly obviously has 6 schools that compete in the Big Five. Mm-hmm. DC has a bunch of schools in the general vicinity as well. Why don't they do any round robin or anything like the Big Five has?
Oh, no, I would love to see like an American, Georgetown, Maryland, maybe Slide Tech and, but even if not, you got George Mason,
James Madison.
Madison is a little closer to UVA, so I guess you could count them too, but I would love to see that. I think it would be some excitement, especially because there's so many schools. You could easily do that and have some good basketball. I would be a fan of that. I think what we do here with the Big Five is unique, and the kids say you can't duck no smoke. So it's a chimney over here, so we ready for it.
I think something that's interesting is I saw so Matt Moderno, who's on Believe in DMV Hoops, so you were on his podcast a couple years ago. He wrote an article about
that. My guy.
Why don't you guys play that? You know what Tony Skinn said? Exactly what you just did. He said people are running from it. I want to play these people, and they don't. I was at the A10 championship game in DC. It's VCU. It's versus George Mason.
Dog fight. Dog fight. That was a game right there.
Oh, It was a great college basketball game. And you look at both coaches on the sidelines. You got Ryan Odom, who's got ties to Virginia, now the head coach there. Tony Skinn, a GMU guy, was on that Final Four team. How about 2 programs in the area that have made Final Fours in the last 20-some years?
And I feel bad because Mason did enough to get into the tournament, too. They did enough. And either one of them whoever would have lost, if VCU would have lost, I would have felt terrible, too, because they won and got into the tournament. Both of those teams deserve to be in for sure.
Absolutely. I think if you just watch that game, even if you don't really watch what happened during their season, if you watch that game, those were 2 tournament teams. And Tony Skinn in the press conference after was just like almost any other year, maybe any other time, a team that lost 3 games in conference play is in the A10. Mm-hmm. It's just the way everything goes now. And that's a perfect segue into my last one before we hit you with some lighthearted stuff. The new age now, conference realignment. You were just in Iowa. You stayed in LA for a couple of days. It's crazy how much traveling. But
we stayed out there. We got whooped out there. Definitely stayed out there.
You
hard flight.
I'm sure the weather was nice there, but it's tough when you're on the road for like a week.
It's hard, man.
I think if there's anybody that can talk about conference realignment and give an opinion on it, it's you, because you were in the new Big Ten, and when you were in college, your 4 years, you were in 3 different conferences. Yeah, you're in the ACC, you're in CUSA playing Southern Miss, and then you're in the AAC where you even came up here and played Temple. Yeah. Like your thoughts on this, and how about in the Ivy League? You're in a bus trip league. You don't have to worry about cross country flights.
Hey, listen, I think it only hurts the student athlete and the student part of it when you got to go play Rutgers and then got to go home. And that was one thing that we struggled with. We played Rutgers. We wanted to go straight to Maryland. We had to go home. But yet we were able to go to USC and then drive up and play UCLA. And I just think it's tough. I think, when they did the alignments of the conferences, they didn't think about the student athletes. They thought about the money. And that's what drives it. Football and the money drives it all. And, you can't be mad at that because, with that comes, guys being able to financially feed their families and put themselves in positions that, they never would have been in. I joke with my mom all the time. I'm like, Mom, I averaged 12 points and 6 rebounds as a junior. I love Coach Jones he was at UCF. He's at Stetson now. He wouldn't have been able to afford me. I'd have been out of there. I made 45 threes. I'd have maybe got $1 million in today's market. I would have been paid. I would have been good. But with all that being said, I think for me, my personal journey, the ACC was great. I played Duke and Carolina, and I played. I think I played a national champ every year I was in college. The defending or national champ with the alignments and all. So I think it's a little different, and I'm enjoying the fact that I do only got bus rides this way out. But bus rides are a lot more fun when you win. So bus rides on the way back are a lot more fun when you can watch film knowing, hey, we learned from a win instead of a loss.
That is the truth. All right, some lighthearted questions to end this one here. So you've obviously played and coached in a bunch of different arenas, a bunch of different fan bases. Which arena and fan base combination was the craziest for you?
I'll tell you what. 3 years ago when we played at Michigan State, it was like a random, I don't know, maybe a Tuesday, Thursday. It was jumping. Oh my goodness. They had a live DJ. It was a girl. She had that joint jumping. That was fun. Fan base. The funniest, this is very underrated. Ohio State got some of the funniest fans. Oh my goodness. I was chewing gum. And I think we were losing. I was chewing gum hard. And one of the fans was like, "You chewing that gum like it's a steak dinner, coach." And I got another piece and they were like, "Over under 4 pieces for the game." It was hilarious. You try to be so locked in that you don't hear it. But I turned to the kid and I was like, "That's a good one." I like that one. That's a good one. But man, we played at some historic places, man. Assembly Hall was great. Loved winning there. We got a win in there. And, even Carver, Carver's a historic place and it's like a dome and everybody's sitting on top of you. But for me, I loved the best is Nebraska. Last game of last year when it was like a real sudden death, winner take all. Whoever won was in the tournament. The Big Ten tournament, whoever lost was out. And it was a beautiful atmosphere, packed out, sold out, and we won. And those are some of my favorites.
I'm going to squeeze 2 in here. In lieu of the Big Five going to 6 teams, we're going to squeeze 6 questions in here instead of 5. Got to ask you one. When did you find out that Fran McCaffrey's nickname growing up was White Magic?
Yo, let me tell you what. I knew that, but let me tell you how crazy it is. I'm on campus, and this older lady, she comes up to me and she was like, "You play basketball?" I said, "No, I'm a coach. I just got here." She welcomed me, really nice lady. And then she kind of leans in, smaller lady, and she goes, "Is he here?" And I said, "Well," I said, "Who's here?" She said, "White Magic." And she whispered it. And it threw me because I forgot they called Coach that. So it threw me. I looked, I said, "What?" She was like, "White Magic, is he here?" And I was like, "Oh, White Magic. Yeah, he's in the office." She was like, "I graduated with him." And I was like, "Okay, you want to go up and say hello?" She was like, "No. I'll be at the games." And I'm like, that's the funniest thing to me. But we knew we heard that. We heard White Magic a lot the last. Yeah, I know I did. The kids, Coach Connor and Jack and Patrick, they probably heard it too much. Margaret, they probably heard it too much. But I've heard that. I knew that was his nickname before I got here for sure. I got some video of him playing at the Palestra, which is crazy. Coach Tone, the guy who runs our pickups in the summer and the spring, legendary trainer, he sent me a video of Coach McCaffrey playing at the Palestra. So I got to send that to Coach. He sent it to me today.
You guys might have to put that on the men's basketball Twitter. I think
we got to.
We
might have to say that for something special. We'll
get a retweet from us, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Tristan, next for you. You mentioned you might have been outpriced by Donnie Jones while you were in school. So I'm going to ask you an NIL question here. If it was legal while you were in school, Tristan Spurlock's dream NIL deal would be what?
I mean, I'm just basing it off what these other guys is getting and what they averaging. Oh, they got $1 million. Somebody would have gave me $1 million for sure. For sure.
I meant sponsorship. If you could be
any sponsorship, anything, as long as it came with $1 million.
That's real.
I'd have modeled anything. They would have gave me $1 million. My dream NIL, actual real name, image, and likeness. What I would have liked to did. Oh man, food. Anything with food. Probably Chipotle. That would have been my favorite. I would have did that. They would have gave me a Chipotle deal. They probably could have kept me. It probably could have kept me there because at one point I was eating Chipotle every single day. That was like my go-to. One of my friends was working there. Definitely gave us extra chicken. This is before it was expensive like it is now. Back then it was $7. Now it's 14, 15 for a regular. So yeah, my dream would have been some food. Probably a Chipotle deal would have gotten me good.
I'm mad at that. All right, your favorite Fran McCaffrey story from Iowa.
The stare got to be one, and the stare down is one. Oh man. All right. So this is funny now because it's over, but it wasn't funny at the moment. So recruiting this kid, and the kid's in Toronto, right? Kids in Toronto. So no, excuse me, the kid's in Fort Erie, which is we flew to Buffalo, drove up to Fort Erie, really close. So the whole time the kid's like, I think the kid's good enough. Coach thinks the kid's good enough. We just got to see him, verify it, and then probably going to take the kid. So we get to Fort Erie Prep. No one's in the gym, not a soul, not nobody. So I'm like, the game's supposed to be started. Maybe we're just early. And the guy sweeping up, he was like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm looking for, this kid. They have a game." He said, "No, they moved the game." I said, "Oh, okay. Where'd they move it to?" They're like, "Oh, they just moved it to Toronto." I'm like, "Toronto? Okay, probably can't be that far." So the guy's like, "Yeah, Toronto's like an hour and a half away." I'm like, "All right, well, we drive right now. We can get there maybe in the first quarter." Toronto was an hour and a half away. Toronto also has an hour worth of traffic. So I tell coach, I'm like, "Coach, look, I know I got you. We took a private plane out here. I'm sorry. We can just go back." He's like, "Nah, we drive. Let's do it." So me and coach hopped in the rental and we drove. So we landed in Buffalo, drove over the border to Fort Erie and drove all the way to Toronto. The kid played the first quarter. We kind of got the end of the first, second, and they were beating them so bad the coach didn't play him much in the second half.
Man,
So on the way back, I remember just thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna get fired. Like, this is it. Like, this is the day. It's my first time. It's really my first, like, I had gone on the road and I'd seen the kid. It was the first time, like, me and coach went somewhere. And it was no music, no music. And me and him was just sitting there and I was just trying to create some conversation. So then we had to get back. And if you miss the flight at a certain point, they won't take off. You just got to wait till the next day. It's another X amount of money the next day. So I just was like praying, like, please just let us get back on time. Let us get back safe. Let no traffic. And we ended up making the flight. And then I remember getting on the plane and he looked at me. He was like, "Yeah, let's not do that one again." And I was like, "All right, cool." And I remember like the whole time I was upset and mad. And in that same season, I brought coach his highest recruit in school history. So like I didn't let that one I didn't let that one time, messing up like that stop me from, keep wanting to recruit. But man, I'll tell you, I was nervous on that flight, man. I thought it was over for me. I thought he was going to, sit me down and be like, "Hey, let's no more recruiting." He let me back on the road and it worked out. So that was that's my personal favorite. It's funny now, but it was not funny during the moment at all.
listen, you talk about a quiet bus ride after a loss. I'm sure that
Quiet,
yeah.
ain't the word. Quiet ain't the word. I think I was just staring. Like we were in the flight, we was taking off, and once we got back, I was good. But in the air, I was just like, he's never letting me on the road again. I think I messed up. So, but no, it was funny. That was one of my favorites. And one of my other favorites is probably just watching him be a dad. Like I enjoy when his guys are playing and he's able to just be dad. So this year, just being able to watch Patrick play a Butler and he didn't have to be coach. He could just be dad. This past year, watching his son Jack play, he didn't have to be, coaching him up. He could just watch him play and, relax. I enjoy that. And then, I have a son. My son is 3. He's 44 pounds. He loves basketball. Like, I'm excited to just be able to be dad. I don't want to train him. I don't want to work him out. I want him to be able to throw the ball at the basket, have fun. He got in trouble yesterday because he missed a shot and said a word he's not allowed to say. I don't know where he got that from, but he did. And, it's crazy for him being 4. Him 3, excuse me, my daughter's 4, but he's 3, and like how much he loves basketball. And I'm like, I like it deep down, but I don't want any parts of it right now. I want him to just enjoy it and have fun. And I think that's probably my favorite part of, watching coach these last couple of years.
So I want to ask you the best player you played against. First of all, give me the high school playing in the DMV, the best guy you played against, the best guy you played against in college, and to finish it off, the best guy you played against overseas.
Best guy I played against in high school. Man, I played it. I tell you what, and his name's been brought up in a lot of these podcasts. Uh, you know who really, what, I'll give you a Philly guy. Wanamaker boy over at Roman Catholic. Oh my God, I had no idea who he was going in, but I knew who he was going out. And what's my man who played at Seton Hall? Dak, I can't think of his name right now. He was good too. He was a Jersey guy though, but he lit us up, boy. Lit us up. We would travel up and play in the big time shootout, I think it is over here. We would play in the big time shootout and Roman Catholic. We had just beat Montvert. We were like top 3 in the country. And I think Brad Wanamaker wore us out, boy. He by himself just did us this filthy. He's up there. And Brandon Jennings, high school wise, Brandon Jennings, when he was at Oak Hill, he's a year older. He lit us up for like 40. And I was like, yeah, he's one of the best players. I think, let me think, college. Who was really good in college? College, it's hard to like average, like go for 30 or 40 at college. I'll give you some random guys. Landry Fields, when I was at UVA, did us disgusting.
Nick Legend. That's right.
Filthy. I remember guarding him like, yeah, if this is what this is about, I don't know about this. This is a little different. He was killing us. And John Shire. So my freshman year, Duke won the national championship, and he was killing us. I was talking trash to him. He didn't even look at me. He was just, all right, Tris. He was just hooping. And then when I became a pro, one of the best guys I played against, a lot of overseas guys, honestly, who are still overseas. I'll shout out some of my teammates. I loved Rodney Green. He was one of my favorite teammates. LaSalle guy, Philly guy. He's got a son who's really, really good. And then Donald Sims, he's still playing over in Uruguay right now. Those are 2 guys that are teammates of mine that I really thought was tough. They was really good.
So, hey, just real quick before I kick to Kyle, Brad Wanamaker's an assistant at Rome, and perhaps you could bond over some stories as you're trying to recruit his guys.
Hey, Brad was just up at he just played pickup up at the Palestra a couple of days ago. We was just chopping it up.
Oh my God, he's still is he still tearing people up?
I left. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to reminisce.
You got PTSD from that.
Yeah, I got out of there. Once I saw him come in, I said, you got it, my man. I got to get in shape before I jump out there and start talking trash, and because I'm gonna talk. So let me get in shape before I get embarrassed.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. One final question for you, Tristan. I know, obviously, you just got to Philly a few weeks ago. Besides basketball, the other big thing in Philly, of course, is cheesesteaks. We ask all of our guests this. Best cheesesteak you've had so far, and if you haven't had one yet, what recommendations have you been getting of where to get one?
I will not lie. I've only had one cheesesteak, and it was at Franklin's Table. Good, not a classic Philly cheesesteak, so I understand that. What I have had that I have liked is these cheesesteak egg rolls. Oh my God. I've had like a million of them from different places. Top 2, and they're not. It's one of my favorite things ever is these cheesesteak egg rolls. I've heard a lot of spots. I can't remember, but that's on my bucket list is to get a nasty, greasy cheesesteak with everything on it. Now, my question: you guys like the cheese whiz? Is that the thing?
Love it.
Yeah, I get different cheeses now, but
what's your go-to cheesesteak order? That's my real question.
All right. Well, I guess it depends where.
Tell me where.
So both of our favorites is Angelo's.
Angelo's. Okay, I heard Angelo's.
Yeah. Ninth and Catherine down there in the Italian market. This is what you got to get. Trust. You got Cooper Sharp cheese, onions. And then I got ketchup this last time. I actually went this weekend with my girlfriend and her family. I got ketchup on it. Not everyone loves ketchup on it. I think it's pretty good. Just adds kind of a different layer to it. Okay. You don't need it, but it definitely spices it up a little bit. I also salt, pepper, ketchup. Well, I know I said ketchup already, but that's what you got to do. Cooper Sharp is the cheese, though. That's their thing there.
Cooper Sharp. Jake, talk to me.
First of all, do you know how to order one? Has anyone told you how to order one?
No. They're trying to see me fail. That's what it is.
Brutal.
Yeah, so if you show up there, if you want whiz, you say whiz with or whiz without. If you want whiz, or if you're gonna say, hey, you say your cheese, and then if you want onions or not on it,
That's what with without means. It's with onions, without onions.
Yeah. So with or without follows the cheese that you want.
Okay.
But I got a couple spots here. If you have a pen and paper, or we can just send it to you, that'd be great. But Angelo's is up there. I like Oregon Steaks. It's open 24/7 down by the stadium complex. And then John's Roast Pork is another one. It's huge. You got enough for lunch and enough for dinner. Important thing about John's Roast Pork, they don't have whiz there. So that might be a spot for you. But I'm telling you, whiz is magical. I don't know what's in it, but it's great.
Okay. Say less.
But you can go cheddar. You can go, if you want American, you go American. They probably have Cooper Sharp. Cooper Sharp's a great cheese. They got a bunch of stuff, but no whiz there. Also, roast pork sandwiches, obviously that's in their name. In general is a Philly staple, but there specifically is delicious.
Okay. Well, the last thing I need right now is these cheesesteak recommendations. I'm trying to lose some more weight so I can hoop this summer. So that's my goal, to be able to jump in and run at least 3 or 4 games.
There you go. Gotta get one, get it out of the way.
I make a deal with all the guys. Everywhere I am. I say, hey, if you don't like what I'm telling you in the fall and in the winter, in the spring and the summer, I'm with whatever you with. You want to play 1-on-1? Hey, Tris, you know what? You running your mouth too much, telling me what to do. Let's do this. 3-on-3, 2-on-2. I'm with all that. But once the summer's over, fall, I go right back into hibernation. Fall, winter, not messing around, purely the workouts. But spring, summer, I'm with it all. I'm with all the 1-on-1, 2-on-2, spots, whatever. We can do whatever.
There you go. Gotta stay in shape, next few months here before you get into hibernation again, for sure.
For sure.
Also, shout out to Cheesesteak Egg Rolls, too. You mentioned Cheesesteak Egg Rolls. We love that. Bar by us where we grew up called Lansdale Tavern. They got the best Cheesesteak Egg Rolls. Get a little sriracha ketchup. Great stuff. But Tristan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, getting to know your story and your expectations, everything for Penn basketball. We certainly are excited to see how the season unfolds and the future as well. So, Tristan, thank you so much for coming on here. Cope, any final words before we get off?
Well, Tristan, first of all, thank you for reaching out to us.
For real, yes.
You reached out to us and asked to come on. We're very happy to have you. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day. I'm sure you're already crazy busy as it is at Penn and at work. So thank you for taking an hour with us. Look forward to seeing you at a couple games in the Palestra. Good luck to your recruiting. You're going to be on the road a lot. So good luck in everything. Thanks for taking the time with us tonight.
Hey, appreciate you guys for having me, man. So tell my guy Jake, keep giving me the good gear. We'll be all right. You know what I mean? So,
That's right.
Appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. You got it.